In Mudbox, we have the ability to take advantage of some real-time viewport rendering. We can produce some really nice renders and some images here. And Mudbox 2010 has added quite a few little features here that'll help out with that process. So if we just jump right in here and we take a look at, first of all, with our viewport filters, you'll notice a couple of new things that have been added on here. We do have a screen distance here, and what that'll allow us to do is to go ahead and get kind of a depth feel for our scene. But we could actually take this, and with the adjustments with it, you can start to kind of dial in an overall white and black balance there, and you could actually start generating your own displacement maps to create your own stamps and stencils from this view here, and save them out and bring them into the stamp and stencil directory and go ahead and model with those, as well as a normal map preview. Now this is great because you can actually click this on and just go ahead and get an overall feel and preview of how your normal map is going to be generated there and how it's going to look. Once again, you could actually have a piece of geometry and actually have it flattened out and generate a normal map right from a screen grab from this area here as well. And then we have a non-photorealistic render. So you can see that this kind of gives a kind of sketch feel. You can actually go ahead and play with some of the different settings and get a whole different feel to it. And we can actually get a bunch of different kind of paper effects on here, so that you get kind of a scale. You can scale up the fray strength and things like that, and you get this kind of feeling of a kind of sketch on paper kind of look as well. And let's just take a look at some of the new ones here. So if you look into the little drop down menu here, we have some new filters in here, and some of the new ones you'll notice in here is an NVIDIA Ambient Occlusion Viewport Filter. So this is a bit of a different viewport filter for ambient occlusion, in the way that you can get some really nice effects with it here if you actually just play with the settings here. So you can see you get this really kind of soft kind of fall off. And as well, you can actually preview the ambient occlusion results right on your kind of get into a white kind of grayscale model there. So you can start to kind of play with the settings in here a bit and maybe dial this back. Yeah, just kind of work with it here and kind of work with the radius overall on there as well. And we can just start to kind of dial in some of the different settings or resolution settings on it. And we can actually adjust how the blur fall off on the radius there. Let's just leave that up. And maybe just bring it down a bit. So you can see we get a nice ambient occlusion effect on there. And also with the standard ambient occlusion that we have, that existed in Mudbox 2009, we've added a couple of interesting things here. So we now have a cutoff radius in here. Let's just put this guy up to best in our viewport here. And the cutoff radius is actually going to allow us to get a feel for kind of a like a cavity map type of thing. So if we just use this ambient occlusion in here, I'm going to kind of build up just kind of a general overall ambient occlusion on our character here. So kind of a big kind of broad area here. Maybe bring down the strength a little bit. But I could go ahead and create a whole new filter here. So I could grab another ambient occlusion one here and actually start to play with the cutoff radius a bit and start to dial in a bit of the strength and the overall sample radius. And I can really kind of work it into these small kind of finite details on here, so that I'll get a little bit more of a tighter kind of result in there as well. So you can actually essentially stack your viewport filters now. You can create a couple of different things in here. Let's just turn that one off and leave the basic one on. And then of course we can get some nice real-time rendering effects. The tone mapper, we can go ahead and adjust some of the values of that. And then our depth of field is improved, where it's a lot easier now to kind of dial in your overall effect on here. Let me just crank this guy back up to keep him in there. And our depth of field, we can actually start to bring the distance in here a little bit and adjust the overall depth of field on there, so you can see we can get his little antenna kind of going out of there, out of our view. There we go, and then you can adjust the blur amount now rather quickly in those settings there. So on the tone mapper here, I'm just going to turn this down a bit, and we can just take a look at some of our results in here. So we have some HDR lighting happening in here, and then of course we have some nice shadows going on, so we can just go in and adjust those shadows there, so we can get some nice real-time rendering effects happening. And maybe just bring the intensity of this one up here to about 3. And we should actually take a look at the changes to the Extract Texture Maps menu here. So if I just go to a new operation here, you can see that with the ambient occlusion there, we have the ability to go ahead and preview 2 different types of ambient occlusion maps. And you can see that the menu here for normal map, displacement map, and ambient occlusion map extraction has changed somewhat. So if I just go ahead and click on it, you'll see the associated menus, and they all have the basic standard layout in here, which is really nice. So I can actually go ahead, for example, with my displacement maps, and I could add everything in here, and it defaults on the target models into level 0. Now I can go ahead and remove specific ones that I maybe don't want in there, but then for my source models as well, I can go ahead and add everything in there, and I can just go ahead and remove some of these that I don't want in there, some of these I ones in here. And you can see that it defaults to the highest level for the source and the lowest level for the targets. And I can actually go ahead and select if I want to generate one map for all the targets or a map for each target individually. So that's quite nice. And of course we have our standard layout here as well. You can set the resolution and where you want to put the file. You can set a 32-bit image as well. And the same with ambient occlusion here. We can dial in our darkness, contrast, and filter, and here we can start to get kind of a cavity map effect and a general kind of ambient occlusion map effect in there as well. So probably the last thing we want to take a look at is something very nice here. Let's just actually turn this guy up a bit. There we go, and we actually now have the ability to write out large format screen images here. So if we go to our save screen image, you'll see this little viewport window comes up, and we have it sets to the screen size. We can use a standard preset of double the screen size. We can even go to 4 times the screen size. It's really actually limited to your hardware, so you could go into a massive image for print resolution, for example, and it actually produces a very clean, nice image that you could edit in another package as well to produce some high-res images for approval purposes through creative or art direction, or as I said, for print purposes. So that's an overall, that's a kind of an overview of Mudbox 2010's presentation and real-time rendering enhancements and improvements.